our whole idea is to enable you to understand how programming works, that you can speak the language of programming, and then if you're very interested in pursuing it further, then it's easy for you to transition into other languages that popular text-based languages. So I'm just going to show you guys quickly again. So the most common languages that we see essentially is, I'm just going to create a new share here for you guys, is something like Pascal. I know that in grade 10, 11 and 12, these guys do Delphi, which essentially is Pascal. You can see here that to write a simple program where we just say hello world, it's quite a lot that you need to do. You have to put in little semicolons and little brackets in here. And if you forget like one little full stop or something, the whole thing just doesn't work. Also, a popular language is Python. So this is the same thing. This is how you would say hello world in Python. And then the most intimidating one of them all is probably C++. Same thing, but this is how you would say hello, your computer to say hello world on text-based language. But we're going to be looking at something like called Scratch. So Scratch basically is a block-based language. So a block-based language essentially means it's a visual language. So you don't have to worry about semicolons and full stops and brackets and all those things. But the cool thing about it is that you can still, you'll learn how to use a loop. You'll understand how to use an if statement. All of those things that you use in programming all the time are applicable here. And just to make it even more clear, I'm just going to see there's something on chat here. Okay, hello everybody. So basically, the way that I got into programming was I started with block-based programming. In fact, I started with Scratch, and now I can program in about 3 or 4 different languages. And I don't think it would have been possible if I didn't start with Scratch. So please don't think that Scratch looks a bit like a play language or anything. It's actually pretty powerful. You can do some amazing things with it. And you'll see later on that you can even write some games and stuff with this. I just want to show you some other types of block languages that we get. I'm going to go to my browser if I can find it. So over here, we see that the popular one is called MBlock. So MBlock is also a visual type of language. Rather than the little cat, we can see that we have a little panda here. And what's nice about MBlock is that you can not only download it onto your computer, you can also do it live on the internet, which is nice because you can save all of your stuff onto the cloud. But this one's nice because you can actually also download it onto your iPhone or Android. So if you have a smartphone, then this program you can download onto your phone and you can actually start coding straight onto your phone. And I think this is actually a really nice one. Also, what's nice about MBlock is that it allows you later on to connect to other components. So you can do robotics, all kinds of cool things here. And later on, they're going to introduce new languages into this MBlock visual programming. Another popular one is Blocky, which is made by Google. It's okay. I haven't used it, but what's nice about it is you can clearly see that on the left-hand side, we have the visual-based language, and then on the right-hand side, you can kind of choose which language you want to see. So JavaScript is also an important one. So it will take this visual language that you see and then kind of convert that into a text-based language. So at some point, if you're interested in learning a text-based language, I think Blocky would be a good way to go. Okay, then we also have here, I'll just quickly close this. Scratch. So Scratch basically is the most popular one. I think most people use Scratch on the internet these days. It's really nice because what I like most about this is that you can download it onto your computer. You can also create stuff on the web. And what's really nice about this is you can explore and it will actually show you things that other people have done. So for example, here, someone has written a game for Super Mario 3. You can actually load that. It takes a while. So it's quite a big project, this. That's why it's taking such a long time to load. nearly there. And also it gives you some instructions here that you can see. Yeah, so it's finally loaded, so you can press the little flag here, and you can see that it looks like, you know, it looks like a proper game. It's got a little intro, press the space bar, and you can actually choose if you want to choose it on mobile or PC. Yeah, just to give you an idea of the type of things that are possible on a computer. I mean, this is pretty incredible that you can actually write these types of games on Scratch. I encourage you to go look at Scratch and explore and see what type of games that they've got on there. And the really cool thing about this is you can click on here at the top right hand corner. You can see there's a See Inside button that you can click, and this will actually load the program, and you can see the code that the person used to write the game. So you can actually get some ideas from other people, and you can actually change some things here. You can even hack the game, because you can make it so that, you know, you can get more points or something when you get coins, things like that. So I think Scratch is going to be is a good platform, and that's why I've chosen to show you guys Scratch. So this is basically the Scratch interface. First, today's video is more going to be about, let's see, we're going to talk about what block programming is. We're mostly going to focus on the layout of the application, and then how to save work, how to load stuff. We get an understanding of what a sprite is, how to create your own sprite, how to build build scripts and things. So I think it would be better for us to just to get to familiarize ourselves with the program. And yeah, and then next time we're going to get more into depth into the actual coding of things. So I think today is just going to be a focus on getting to grips with what is going on in this little program that we see. Okay, so the first thing is this guy here, this little dude that we're looking at now. This is called a sprite, and in particular, I think his name is Scratchy. We can change that later on. I'm just going to check here. We've got something on chat here. Scratch. Yes, it's called Scratch. The Scratch, there are various versions of this particular app. We get Scratch 2. This one is called Scratch 2. There's also an older version called Scratch 1.4, I think, which works perfectly fine. And then on the web, you can also get Scratch 3. Yes, I've got a question here. Yes, you can use it at home. So let me just show you quickly how you would do that. So I'm going to start here, share quickly, go to Google. So we can go to Google and you can search, just type in download Scratch. And the one that, see, the first one is the Scratch offline editor. That's the very first version that came out. It's a bit old, but it will still do what you need to do. The one that's most commonly used today is Scratch 2. You just click on that. And basically, if you want someone to install this for you, they basically need to download the Scratch offline editor here for Windows or for Mac, depending on which one you have. And what's nice about this is that it will enable you to load this onto your computer, so you don't have to be connected to the internet or anything if you would like to. I'm not sure why my screen just paused. Sorry about that. So you don't have to be connected to the internet or anything if you want to do some coding. Okay, so you just need internet connection once, or maybe you can know someone that can download it for you. You can install it onto a computer, and then you're good to go. All right. Okay, so going back to Scratch. So basically, this is the interface. There are a few things that we need to, terminology that we guys need to understand that will make things a lot easier when we go on. So as I said before, this is a block-based language. And what's nice is that literally we've got blocks here on the side that we can drag and drop, and they kind of build like Legos. You can see they just kind of slot into each other. So I can make it a bit bigger so you can see. So we can just slot things in, and automatically we can, this is how we build our code, right? I'm going to show you quickly if we could do something like something quite simple. We can say clear graphic effects, and don't worry about the code for now. We're going to go into depth all of this stuff. We're gonna talk about everything. So I'm just going to build something quickly for you here. Change the looks of this particular thing. Let's maybe wait 1 second in between. Okay, so if I run this little code here, and I notice that what's happening with Scratch, we can see that it changes color every second. Okay, so this, what I'm looking at now, this block of code here, this is called a script, right? And this is basically how you would program your sprite, this little guy here, this little cat over here. Okay, so we've already gotten talked about where you can get it. So I say again, you can choose Scratch. That's the one you can use. There's also mblocks that you can use, the one that I showed you in the beginning. And I think that basically Scratch is going to be the one that's nicest for us. But if you only have access to a mobile phone, then maybe mblocks is the one that you want to use. But they're very similar. It doesn't really matter which one you use. I'm only going to choose this one because I've used it for quite a long time, and that's the one that I prefer. Okay, so someone just said here that there is a Scratch 3 is now available for offline. I wasn't aware of that. Last time I checked, Scratch 3 was only available on the cloud, but I'll definitely look at that for the future videos. Anyway, okay, so let's talk about the interface. I'm just going to clear this stuff here because it's now distracting. So we basically, this whole thing that we're looking at is called our programming environment, right? So at the very top here, you can see that we've got a menu bar, right? So this file, edit, tips, and about, this is your menu bar. So if you click on file, and we'll talk about saving and things now, but just know that this is your menu bar. We have here in the middle, we have something called our cursor tools, right? This little shortcut over here. I hope everybody can see that. And then we have what is here where this little sprite is situated. This is what we call the stage. Okay, so this is essentially where this little guy can move and do things. We also have here at the bottom, we have something called sprites. So at the moment we have one sprite, which is the one that we see here at the top. So all my sprites, you can have multiple sprites in here. They will all basically appear. And then finally, in addition to that, we also have here something called this palette here, all the stuff where we can see motion, looks, sound, pen, data, all these things here basically. These are what I called my blocks palette. Okay, so these are where you find all of your blocks. Then on the right-hand side, you can take the blocks and you can move it over to this side over here. So this interface here, this section over here, I would call the scripts area. So this is basically where we're going to build all of our code, okay? And at the top here, we can see that we've got scripts. We've got these tabs, scripts, costumes, and sounds. So these basically are my tabs that I'm going to look at. Okay, so that's essentially it. So we have the menu bar here at the top. We've got some cursors here. We've got a list of our sprites. We've got our palette over here. We've got the visual interface or the scripting area over here. And this little guy here is called a sprite. And this is the stage that he is situated on at the moment. Okay, are there any questions about that before I continue? No questions. All right, let's continue. Okay, so let's maybe start with the menu bar. So here at the top, we have a menu bar. You can click on new. If I just click on new, I'm not going to save. I'm just saying don't save. And this will basically just reset the whole thing. And currently my project is now called Untitled. It doesn't have a name. So if I want to give it a name, I need to save it. So I'm going to save it, and it's going to come up over here, and it's going to ask me where to save it. And I'm just going to put some stuff here into Scratch. I'm going to say lesson 1. Right? And if I can give you some good advice here, if you save your files whenever you're programming, whatever it is that you're doing in computers, always make sure that you try to save it as something very descriptive, because you don't want just to call things file 1, file 2, file 3, file 4, you might know what it relates to at this point in time, but 3-4 months down the line, you're not going to remember, and then those files essentially become meaningless. So it's always a good idea to give your files a good name. So I'm going to call this one lesson 1, overview of Scratch programming. Okay, click on save. So you can see now here where it said untitled, it says now lesson 1 overview of Scratch programming. And I'm just going to show something else to you quickly. I'm just going to switch my screen quickly for you so you can see. So you can see my entire desktop now. So I'm going to go to desktop, and you can see there that I've got Scratch. It's that folder where I saved my stuff. And you can see here that I've got lesson 1 overview of Scratch programming.sp2. So this .sp2 that you see, essentially, that is your extension. This tells your computer what type of file it is that you're dealing with. So when I double click on it, and it sees the sp2 and you've got Scratch installed, it's automatically going to open up Scratch. Okay, so the sp2 basically just tells your computer what type of file it is. And in this case, sp2 is Scratch 2. Okay, so going back to Scratch. Okay, so let's just make this a little bit better so you can see a little bit clearer. Okay, so we've got the menu bar. So we can also file, we can save stuff, and similarly, we can also open stuff. So I can click open, and last night I worked on a little program here. I'm going to show you how to do that a little bit later on, called blinking. So you'll see that it will load a new program here called blinking, or I can go back to the previous one. I just click open, I go to my desktop because that's where I saved it, Scratch, and I load up lesson 1, and then we're back where we started. Okay, right. So we can also, what's nice about this is if you create something and you think that it's actually really nice, you could actually share it to the website. So remember when I first showed you people looking at games, and you can actually play other people's games and look at the code and things like that. This option here actually allows you to post things onto the web, so then other people can see your creations, which is actually really nice. Then file open, save. Those are the only 2 ones that we're really going to use for now. And new, if you want to start a new project. So if I just click on new, it's just going to reset it. This thing is now called Untitled again. And I'm going to open up the one that we just had, because I actually want to save this one for later. Okay, so we go and open. Okay, so we're back where we started. And then there's some other things in here called small stage layout and turbo mode. So small stage layout means I'm not really interested to see what's going on here. If I do this, then I'm more focused on the coding interface, or this script area that we're looking at here. So maybe sometimes your code will get quite big, and then you don't really worried about what's going on here. You're more focused on the code. So it's useful for us to be able to switch that on and off, but I'm going to keep it big for now. And then also here, we have something called turbo mode, but we're not going to talk about that now, maybe at some other point. Then here we've got something called tips, which is also really nice. You'll see there that I've got tips. Then it allows me to, how do I get rid of this? It allows me to it shows me lots of examples. So here we've got one, for example, getting started, how to make music. There's a game that you can write. So it shows you step by step how to do those things inside Scratch. Okay, so feel free to check these things out and how to do it. And if we also have all kinds of help files here as well. But we're going to cover all of these things. Okay, so I just want to
we need Scratch.
Get this out of the way. Okay, so the next one is a cursor tool. I don't really use these ones that much, but essentially the 2 that I use the most is the one called grow, and the other one is called shrink. You can sometimes, if you want to make your sprite a bit bigger, you can select the grow one and just double click or click on it, and that will make your sprite bigger. Or you can click the one that will make it smaller, and that will essentially make your sprite a little bit smaller. Okay, so this is basically just like a quick way for you to make get your things into the right proportion if you feel that your cat's maybe a bit too big in relation to whatever its surroundings are. Okay, then we need to talk about the stage. So The stage essentially is where this little sprite is now located. The stage at this point in time is completely white. So you can see here at the bottom where it says sprites, then next to it there says stage 1 backdrop. And this is this guy over here. Now you can actually add your own backgrounds. So you can say, you can either choose from a library, or you can draw your own background, or you can get some file from the internet and you can put it up there, or you can even take a photo and you can load that as your background. So I'm just going to choose a background from the library, and you can see there are all kinds of things here. Basically you can choose from everything that you have over here, but you also have categories by indoors. You can see there's a lot of things here, outdoors, all the weird ones. There's also themes, so you can do castles, city, some nice city ones here. And I mean, once you have, and I'll show you later on that once you have something, nothing stops you from modifying it. You know, you can choose, for example, this little tree gifts one, and you can draw your own little present or a little picture here in the background and make it something that is unique for you. You know, there's some really nice ones here. So, but unfortunately, we're going to have to choose a boring one now. So this one here is called the XY grid, and I want to load that for a reason, because if we are going to be doing stuff onto Scratch, essentially we need to know how to navigate. Okay, so the first thing that we need to know is the following: is that the width of the stage, you can see it here on the right hand side, goes from x minus 240 and then it goes to x 240, right? So it starts at the zeros right in the middle, and then it goes 240 units to this side, and then it goes 240 units to the negative side to this side. So that means that the total width of this screen is what? Do you guys know? Do you know what the total width is? No? You can chat, you can type, you can see what do you think is the total width of this screen, if it's 240 on this side and 240 on that side. Okay, no, okay, well, it's 480, right? And then similarly to the top, we can go 180 top up, and we can also go 180 down. Okay, and then what I want you to pay attention to is the following: is that notice that my mouse is moving across the screen. And I'm not sure if you guys can see that. Maybe if over here, we've got X and we've got the Y coordinates. So as I move my mouse, I can see that the X value is changing, and I can also see that the Y value is changing. So if I move up and down, only my Y value is really changing. But if I move left and right, my X value is changing. So you can see if I go to the middle, this is 0, 0, essentially. This is the middle of the stage. I can't get it quite to the center. And then as we move out, we can see that the X value is increasing, increasing, increasing. In fact, if I go outside the stage, the X stays at 240, but only the Y value now changes. I'm outside the stage. If I go out on this other side, X is at minus 240. Okay, so this is going to be important for us, because if I want to, for example, put this little guy here in the middle of the screen, I'm going to go to motion. And there's a little block here called go to X13373. So that's where my sprite currently is. That's its location. So I can change that to 0, and I can change this to 0, right? And I just click on it, and we'll see that the sprite will immediately go to the center of the stage. Okay, so we can also put X240 and press enter. So where do you think it would go? Goes to the right-hand side of the screen. Or I can go to minus 240, right? And that will take it to the left-hand side of the screen. Okay, so I can go back to the middle again, 0, 0. I can change the Y, because the maximum that I can go up is 180. That'll take me to the top, or minus 180. That will take me to the bottom. Okay, so if you want to know where to find this block, you'll find it in motions. Anything that has to do with movement, you'll find within the motion block. So all the movement things you will find in here. And don't worry about the fact that there's so many. I mean, to be honest with you guys, I've maybe used, I don't know, 40% of the blocks in here. You don't need to know all of them. Only some of them you're going to use quite frequently. So I'm just going to put it back to the middle. Just click on it, and then automatically it will take my sprite back to the middle. So I can even make my sprite a bit bigger, or I can use the cursor to make my sprite a lot smaller. Okay, so so basically that's the background. But so I'm going to choose something that's a little bit nicer than that. I'm not particularly fond of the XY axis for now, but I definitely encourage you to, when you start doing this movement things, and in the next video we're going to work a lot more on drawing and moving, and then we can, maybe it would be a good idea for us to keep the background with the XY, so you can just see what's going on in terms of its movement. It just makes it easier to navigate. So I'm going to choose something. Let's choose something like outdoors. Oh, okay, this one looks pretty cool. It's like winter. Okay, so there's my little sprite. Okay, so I've got a little background here, and I've got a sprite, and I'm just going to check and see if I've happened. Oh yes, another thing is, if you when you're looking at your stage, sometimes it's a bit frustrating because it's very small, and maybe you would want to make it bigger to see what's going on here. You notice that there's a little square with like little bracket thingies around on the side here. So when you click on that, it actually maximizes the whole thing for you. So you don't have to, you don't see all the palettes and the code and the menu bars and all that other nonsense. You're only focusing on the screen, and this is the only thing that's basically visible for you. So this is especially nice when when you're going to play games or things like that. That's the only thing that you're really interested in seeing anyway. Okay. So the next one that we're going to look at is the sprite. So let's maybe change the sprite. So the sprite, basically, we can see here on the right-hand side, there's some new sprites. We can choose either from a library, like we did for the background. We can draw our own sprite. We can upload one, so you can get a picture of something, a little character, and you can actually upload it here, and you can use that one. Or you can actually take a photo of something, and you can put it up there. So I'm going to choose a new sprite. I'm going to click on this. And same thing as before, right? We've got a whole library of things here. So by default, it shows all, but we can also check by animals. My computer is lagging quite a bit now. Let's see what's happening here. We can choose fantasy. There's some ghosts. We can choose by theme. We can all kinds of things here. So the one I'm particularly fond of, I'm going to choose, I quite like this little guy, the beetle. Okay, I'm going to choose a beetle. So now you can see that there's a beetle in here, and I have this little cat here. So maybe I don't want both of them in here. Maybe I just want the beetle in here. So what I can do is I can here, you can see I've got two sprites basically, and both of them I've got some information on them. So I can click the little eye here, and it will give me the name of the sprite. So this little guy is called Sprite 2. We can see its X coordinates and its Y coordinates. I don't know if you can see that on your screen, but it shows the X and the Y position. It also shows the direction in which the little sprite is pointing, and we're going to talk more about that next time. Rotation style, not really interested. We can also click show. We can untick it, and that will actually hide the sprite from view. Right? So I'm going to basically delete this one. So to do that, you can right click on it, and we have some info, duplicate. We can delete. We can also save it if you want to, or we can hide it. So I'm going to delete it because I only want to keep this little dude over here, only this guy. And his name is, we can click on it on info. We can see that this little sprite is called Beetle, and his position is X5 and Y is equal to -102. So if I want to move him to the center of the stage, I can use this one. I can click on 0. I can click on 0. I just click on it, and that will move it to the center of the stage. Okay. We can also, what's nice about the sprite is that once you're on the sprite, you can do some modifications to it. So you can see that I've now selected that particular sprite. That particular sprite has got some code in it. And if I go to the tab called costumes, you see that I've got this little sprite here inside of my costume area. So what's nice about this is that you can now actually, I don't know, do some modifications. So you can draw things on here. You can maybe color. So maybe let's see if we can change these colors. I'm not sure if we can do that. So we can change this one to like a type of a cyan. And we can take maybe purple over here. We can change that color to this. Whatever you want to do. Or maybe you don't want to use one of these little sprites that you've got here, right? You can actually make your own. So over here, we can click on paint a new costume, and then we can actually draw whatever sprite it is that we want to do. So that's not a very good drawing, but we can do something like a circle here. And we can do a little guy like this. And we can say, we can draw a little stick man. Right, so please don't judge my drawing skills. So over here, over here, over here, and maybe we can give him, I don't know, some kind of smile and some eyes. Okay, so now basically that is now my new sprite, and then I've got two sprites. I've got this one and this one. So this particular sprite, that is Beetle, has actually something called two costumes. So it can switch between costume number 1, which is this one over here, and it can switch between costume number 2, which is this one over here. We can add more costumes if we want to, but I'm going to basically take it out. The other one, I'm just going to click it so it goes away. So there's only one costume here, and it's called costume 1. So let's call this guy Stickman. So this is now my little Stickman, and I can click back onto scripts, and we can see that at Stickman, I can now move Stickman to 0, 0. I can move him to the right-hand side. Click on it, it will move him to the right-hand side. I can move him minus 240, move him all the way to the left-hand side, or I can just move him to the center of the screen. Okay, like that. So basically, I just want to show something else. Oh yes, then so basically you have your script tab, then we have our costumes tab where we can do some modification to our little sprites here. We can also create a new sprite just from drawing one over here. And we also have on this side here, we've got sound. So you can also put sound in your thing. So here I've got a sound called pop. I'm not sure if you can hear that. And then we have a whole library again of things that we can do. There's animals, there's electronic, human, instruments, all kinds of things. I mean, you can go crazy with this stuff. You can do amazing things with this. So, but generally, I'm not too keen on sounds because it does get quite annoying when you hear the same sounds over and over and over again. So generally, I don't use sounds, but you're more than welcome to play around with the sounds and do something like that. So I just want to show you a few things that we can do. Maybe we can write a simple little sprite or a little application. So I'm going to change the background quickly. I'm going to change it to something a little bit more bland. Let's do this one. Okay, so I changed the background to just neutral, essentially. And what I would like to do is I would like to move this little guy. Okay, so I'm going to go to, I'll explain all of this as we go. So I want to move him 10 steps. So he's going to move 10 steps in the direction that he's facing, but don't worry about direction too much right now, but basically just imagine that he's pointing to the right, he's facing right. So if I click on move, we can see that he's moved 10 steps, and I click on move again, and he's moved 10 steps again. So what I can do is here, I can click on event, and basically what event allows me to do is it's like a little trigger, right? So it tells me that if I press this little flag over here, it's going to move 10 steps. And if I press the flag again, it's going to move 10 steps, which is a bit annoying because every time you want them to move, then you have to press the flag. So what's nice about this is that you can go down to control, and you'll see that there's some blocks here called repeat and forever. Now I'm going to use forever. So what I want to happen is that when I press that flag, I want him to move to the right by 10 steps, and I want him to do that forever, okay? So if I want to do that, I'm going to say, okay, right, I want you to move 10 steps forever, but I only want this to happen once I press that little green flag. Okay, so once I press the green flag, it's forever going to move 10 steps in the direction that it's facing in now. So if I click on this little green flag here, we can see that is moved all the way to the edge of the screen. You can't go further because remember the maximum that you can move is actually 240, which is this location at this point in time. Okay, so if you want to stop this, you can see, I don't know if you can see it, but if you look closely, you can see this little glow around this these blocks here, the script. You press the little red button and the glow will go away. But now the problem is my little sprite is now basically on the edge of the screen. So that means I have to draw him back over here to the middle where I want him. Okay. So what I would like to do is, I would be nice if I can move him all the way over here. And then once he reaches the end, maybe if you can turn around and then you can move all the way to this side. And then when he reaches this edge over here, you can turn around and move all the way to this side. So that's a movement thing that we want to do. So if I go to motion, let's see, we've got here pointer change, and then they've got this block here down the bottom called if on edge bounce. Okay, so it sounds weird, but essentially what this little block of code will do is when he reaches the edge, he's going to bounce off it like a ball. Okay, so let me show you what that's going to look like. It's going to look weird. I'm going to fix it in a second. So I click on the flag, and we see that he bounces, but he does this weird rotation thing, right? It's just really bizarre. So I'm going to stop it and I'll move him back over here. And the reason why he is bouncing is because his rotation is set up so that he basically, every time that he bounces the wall, he turns, right? So we can fix that by changing the rotation style. So rather than turning, we're going to change the rotation style just to face the other way. So whenever he rotates, he just faces the other way. But like I said, next time we're going to talk more in depth about rotation and things like that. Just for now, know that we can press this little guy over here rather than doing a full rotation. And it's going to, when he reaches the wall, it's just going to turn around and go to the other side. So if I click on this little flag, you see here,
Wouter?
It's now moving left and right.
Wouter?
Okay.
Hello.
So here's the question. All's good and well. The problem is, if I press this, it doesn't really look like it's moving. It just looks like it's sliding, right? So obviously, if we're going to move, then we would expect our legs to be moving as well. So maybe let's see if we can fix that. Right? See, I've got some questions here. Okay, so I only have a few minutes left, but basically we can explore this more next time. I'm going to show you next time how we can take this little guy over here so that we can do some movement. So let me just quickly show you. I'll just save this quickly, and I'm going to show you what I'm kind of looking at for next time, because I think once we do a bit of nicer animation, things are going to get a lot more interesting. So this is just something that I wrote last night. So just a little guy that I created. You can see his costumes over here. It's just a little ball with two eyes. And then what I've done is I've animated so that it can blink, right? So the idea is going to be that this little guy blinks here. So when I press play, you'll see that it's doing nothing for 3 seconds, and then it blinks. Do you guys see that? So we're going to be looking at that next time. So not only that, but also looking at the stick man, how to get his legs to move so that it looks like it is purely animated. We can definitely work on that for next time. So we only have a few minutes left. Do you guys have any questions for me? Is there anything that you would like to ask? And if so, please ask in the chat, and then I can answer your questions. No, not one question. Is there anything in particular that you want me to look at next time? Is there anything that was unclear for you? You sure? Okay. Was this okay? Did I go too fast? You happy? Is this what they make to use movies? Not. You can. In a sense, they do. it's not going to be this particular program, but it's definitely something that they can use to move moves. I think Unity is a program that people use quite often. Unity is the one that you will use. But in order to know Unity, we first have to learn C#. But before we can learn C#, we first need to know how to code. So the short answer is yes. It is possible, but it will take a bit of time to get there. Any other questions?
Yes. When are you gonna do this again?
No, okay. Yeah, that Mario game is amazing. I think if you look at the amount of code that goes in there, and we'll get there at one point. You will have a lot of respect for that person, because that person has sat there for hours and hours and hours and hours to write something like that. But hopefully by the end of this, you guys will also be able to do stuff like that. And definitely, I think you're going to be able to do it. Okay, thank you very much. Tomorrow, I'll see you again tomorrow, same time, same place.
Perfect, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. We
Okay,
need to
I'll
log
make more
off now.
characters tomorrow as well. Yes, I will. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Enjoy
Bye-bye.
the rest of your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.